Infertility treatment? What a waste of money. If we're infertile, the cause must be you. My husband hurled those harsh words at me, and in the end dropped a massive bombshell. I'm going to divorce my infertile wife and marry your sister instead, haha. Indeed, my husband chose his sister-in-law over his infertile wife. My name is Linda. I live with my husband, Nathan. Days spent with my beloved husband were indeed happy days. However, we had a hard time trying to have a baby. The discussion about infertility treatment began about 2 years into our marriage. Hey Nathan, I think it's time we started thinking about having a baby. Nathan responded with a lack of enthusiasm. Infertility treatment comes with various burdens, right? Both physically and financially. That's true, but if it's going to help us conceive, I think it's okay to give it a try. Well, maybe, but... Nathan didn't deny the idea of infertility treatment, but he was also not eager to proactively engage in it. I had become a housewife when Nathan had transferred for his job, so I guess he has financial concerns. Don't worry about the money. It's been 6 months since we moved, and I'm getting used to this place. I'm thinking about finding a job soon, so we don't have to worry so much about finance, right? If I can start earning an income, we'll have more financial flexibility than we do now. With that, he would probably become more open-minded and supportive towards the treatment, but he reacted differently than I expected. Well, it'd be great if you could start working. But? I don't know how I feel about you finding a job for the sake of getting treatments. It's like putting the cart before the horse. Don't most people conceive naturally? That's not necessarily true. Women's bodies aren't that simple. I hear that when couples can't have kids, the cause is usually the female. Slightly irritated by Nathan's words, I responded. I do hear that often, but there are cases where the male may be the cause, you know. Alcohol, obesity, even diseases from childhood can cause male infertility. He frowned disapprovingly. Maybe, but statistically speaking, it's more likely to be the female, right? I mean, I haven't had any major illnesses, and I only drink socially. I doubt the issue is with me. So you're saying you think it's my fault? I didn't say that. I'm just generally speaking. Even though he didn't say it outright, it was clear that he believed I was the reason for our infertility. But it was true that I couldn't rule out the possibility that there might be factors on my side, so I went to get an infertility test at the hospital. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law was standing outside our door waiting for me when I returned home. Linda, where have you been? You're a housewife and yet you're always out. Hurry up and let me in. It's terribly hot outside. My mother-in-law always visits without notice, keeping tabs on me. Regardless of how well I kept up with the household chores, she consistently found something to criticize, pointing out things like, "This spot is dirty," and "This isn't good enough." Reluctantly, I let her in, and the first thing she said was, "So, I hear you've decided to start infertility treatment?" Huh? Why do you know about that? I obviously heard it from my son. Is that so? I was planning to wait and assess the situation before bringing up the topic with my husband again, so the fact that he had already talked about it with his mother was a surprise. You see, we let you marry our son for the sake of our family's heir. Yet, 2 years after marriage, you still haven't managed to get pregnant. I don't even know why we approved this marriage in the first place. I apologize for not having been able to bless you with a grandchild yet, but Nathan and I are committed to making every effort to conceive in the near future. Upon hearing my non-confrontational response, my mother-in-law let out a deep sigh. Linda, dear, if trying hard was all it took to get pregnant, no one would have any trouble, right? After all, it's clear that you're the cause of this infertility, so maybe you should consider a divorce or something. What? Divorce? It makes sense, doesn't it? There's no way my son is the cause. Like mother, like son. Not only my husband, but also my mother-in-law doubted that I was the cause. Apparently satisfied with her outburst, my mother-in-law left for the day. Upon my husband's return from work, I relayed the comments made by his mother. See, even Mom says the problem isn't me. If we're infertile, it must be you, Linda. He responded with a smug look while nodding in agreement. there was no point in fighting back. He wouldn't consider the possibility that he might be at fault, not even for a second. I decided to wait for my infertility test results. I visited the hospital again a few days later, where the doctor told me a surprising fact.
So, we didn't find any issues with you.
Is that so? But then why? The doctor began awkwardly.
Please have a talk with your husband. If you really want a baby, it would be best for him to also get tested.
Have my husband get tested?
We can't definitively say the cause lies with just one of you. However, pregnancy is something that requires cooperation from both spouses. Just to be sure, I recommend that your husband also get tested.
Is that so? I wasn't the cause. While I was relieved at the doctor's words, I wondered how to break the news to my husband. If I tried to be roundabout, it would only make things more complicated. I've got the test results. Let's talk about it tonight. I texted him and decided to wait for him to come home. As I was preparing dinner, my husband returned. Behind my husband, inexplicably, stood my mother-in-law as well. Mother-in-law? Why?
I invited her. When I told her that the test results were out, she said she wanted to come.
My husband had a look of ease on his face. They appear completely oblivious to the possibility that he might be the cause. Linda, hurry up and tell us the results. Although I can already guess without asking, haha. To my smirking mother-in-law, I responded clearly. There were no issues with me. The doctor suggested Nathan also get tested.
Huh? Why me?
Faced with the unexpected turn of events, my husband was obviously dissatisfied. What do you mean, why? Pregnancy is something a couple has to work on together, isn't it? I had no issues, so now it's your turn to get checked.
What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying the problem is with me?
That's not what I'm saying. If we both get tested and neither of us is the issue, that's reassuring. If by any chance you are the issue, then we just have to get the proper treatment. As I tried to appease my angry husband, my mother-in-law interrupted. Stop this nonsense. Nathan has always been healthy. There have never been any issues with him. It's impossible for him to be the cause. It seemed as though she hadn't been listening to a word I said, as she stubbornly insisted that her son was not the issue. To convince them both, I showed them the medical report I received from the doctor. Look, I got this today. It clearly shows that they didn't find anything. Yet, both Nathan and my mother-in-law casually glanced over the report, showing little interest in actually reading it thoroughly. Clearly, they were reluctant to accept the reality. Nathan finally blurted out an outrageous statement.
Women are the ones who get pregnant, so the problem must be with you.
Wait a second, I just showed you the test results. His mother once again interjected, shrugging her shoulders in disbelief. This must be a fake report anyway, right? Going to such extremes just to avoid a divorce. You're truly a frightening woman. What? Why would I do such a thing? Stop saying ridiculous things. Ignoring my protest, the two continued their conversation. Hey Nathan, wouldn't a younger woman be better?
Maybe. This could be good timing.
Oh yeah, with her? Strike while the iron is hot, as they say.
With her?
What were these people talking about? A few minutes later, an unbelievable fact slipped out of Nathan's mouth.
Well, actually, I've impregnated your sister.
What?
We recently found out she's pregnant. If I were infertile, she wouldn't be pregnant, right?
My sister's pregnant? I was so stunned that I couldn't think straight. Nathan continued without paying attention to my state.
So, here's the thing. I'm thinking of marrying your sister. Mom has been saying she wants a grandchild soon after all.
My mind went blank and I felt like collapsing right then and there. An affair with my sister? And she's pregnant and they're going to get married? Wait, Sarah's still in college. And she has a boyfriend.
Yeah, but apparently she fell for me.
When did this?
We've been seeing each other for a while now.
Nathan reveals the cruel truth nonchalantly. He was having an affair with my sister while we were discussing our infertility issues? Abandoned by my husband and betrayed even by my own sister. I had no idea any of this was happening while we were discussing our infertility. My mother-in-law further compounded my already speechless state with her insults. Do you understand now? My son is perfectly capable of getting a woman pregnant, so you're the issue. We don't need a wife who can't bear children.
That's true.
Nathan agreed with his mother.
It's settled then, we're getting a divorce. I already have the papers. Fill them out quickly.
He seemed thrilled as he thrusted the divorce papers at me. Are these people sane? Impregnating your wife's sister and planning to remarry? That's outrageous. That's when I felt it, the surge of anger that I can't even put into words. Fine, we'll get a divorce, but you're going to pay me alimony. Once we'd agreed, he immediately kicked me out of our home.
See you around, you barren lady. I'll find happiness with your adorable sister.
Later, I returned to my parents' home and explained the situation to them. They were enraged, but the truth is, they disowned my sister a long time ago. I was the only family member that my sister still had contact with. Her reckless behavior, particularly concerning money and relationships, had caused our parents a great deal of trouble. She was disowned by her parents once she started college. Nevertheless, she is my one and only sister. I'd regularly invited her to our home for meals with my husband. And this is how things end up. My parents said they summoned Sarah and my husband to give them a scolding. But I told them that was unnecessary. I knew that even if they got together, it wouldn't work out. And several years later, it was a few years later when I got remarried to Gary, someone I met at my new job, and we were soon blessed with a daughter. One day when we were out as a family, I heard a voice say,
Hey Linda, is that you?
Nathan.
Long time no see.
The voice belonged to my ex-husband. He took a quick glance at my daughter and current husband, then spoke to me with bitterness.
Ah, so you were married. Lucky you, someone took you in.
Mind your own business. How's your marriage with my sister going? At this, my ex-husband made a sour face. Just as I thought. I pretended to know nothing and asked him, What's with the face? You should be happy you ended up with a child with my sister instead of me.
Well, you see,
he replied with a pale face.
Sarah was really unfaithful. Even after she gave birth, she used my money to cheat on me. Now we're divorced. She even took our child with her, after all the baby stuff she made me buy.
Oh dear, that sounds like quite a disaster for you, I replied, though I knew all along. I was aware of my sister's promiscuous behavior, which resulted in numerous troubles. Every time she ended up demanding money from our parents. Looking around and seeing that my daughter and husband weren't around, my ex-husband suddenly turned to me.
Hey, would you consider giving us another chance?
Excuse me? Don't you think it's a little too late for that? As you can see, I'm remarried.
But your daughter's a stepchild, right? You shouldn't have to go through the trouble of caring for someone else's child. I don't need children anymore. Let's live freely together.
He must have thought that my daughter was my stepdaughter. This man, after all this time, still didn't suspect my fertility. I boldly told this mistaken man the truth. What are you talking about? That girl's my biological daughter.
Huh?
His expression at that moment is something I can never forget, even to this day. He had a dumbfounded look, about 5 times more than usual.
Weren't you infertile?
Trembling, he asked. I explained politely. Well, isn't it unfortunate? We conceived our daughter right after I married my husband. But more importantly, I wonder who the actual father of Sarah's child is. I looked at my ex-husband with a wicked smile. His face was pale.
Hey, what do you mean by that?
Oh, don't worry about it. Just curious, you know? I knew my sister was promiscuous. I also knew the cause of our infertility was you. In other words, you were used by my sister.
Used?
Yes, she probably didn't care who she was marrying as long as she had a man to raise her child. And you, who misunderstood, fell into my sister's scheme and married her, unknowingly raising another man's child.
So, you mean I was deceived into being a surrogate father?
He fell to the ground and clung to me, crying inconsolably.
Please, you're the only one for me. I was abandoned by Sarah, my child, even my own mother. I'll end up all alone.
I don't care. That's the result of your actions, right? It's quite pathetic to be acting this way for someone your age." I looked down and threw those words at him. He slumped his shoulders, completely disheartened. Ever since, despite our conversation, he has kept sending me desperate texts. "I was wrong. I want to start over. You're the only one for me. Please come back. I won't cheat anymore." But I blocked all of them without replying. It seems my ex-husband later requested a DNA test for the child. As a result, it was confirmed that the child was not his. To this day, he's in a state of self-isolation at home, not even going to work. Being abandoned by his mother, his only ally, feels like he's getting what he deserves. I, of course, haven't seen my ex-husband since that day. I have a family that is incomparably more precious. I couldn't care less about that man. I want to continue to prioritize my husband, who chose me, and our daughter, who came into our lives, focusing on them as we cherish each day.